The room was alive with energy, the kind that only a high-profile tech conference could bring. Hundreds of people moved through the grand hall, their polished shoes clicking against the glossy marble floor. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting soft light over the scene below. Waiters weaved through the crowd, carrying trays of sparkling drinks and hors d'oeuvres. This wasn't just any event, it was one of the most prestigious gatherings in the tech world, held in the heart of Seattle. At the center of it all stood Jeff Bezos, the billionaire founder of Amazon. He looked every bit the part of a titan, dressed in a tailored suit that fit him perfectly. His presence commanded attention without him saying a word. Beside him was Lauren Sánchez, his girlfriend, whose confident smile seemed to light up the room. She wore an elegant dress that shimmered under the lights, drawing admiring glances from those around her. Together they made an impressive pair, exuding power and charm as they navigated the throng of influential guests. Jeff nodded politely as he exchanged pleasantries with various industry leaders. Some were eager to shake his hand, while others wanted to pitch their ideas or simply bask in his aura. Lauren stayed close, occasionally chiming in with witty remarks or thoughtful questions. To anyone watching, they appeared to be the perfect couple, united, successful, and untouchable. But not everyone was fooled. Across the room, a woman named Karoline Leavitt watched them carefully. Karoline was a journalist known for her relentless pursuit of the truth. Her sharp eyes missed nothing, and tonight she had a particular interest in Jeff and Lauren. She had spent months digging into rumors about Jeff's business dealings, whispers of secrets hidden beneath the surface of his vast empire. And now, standing here among the elite, she felt certain that something significant was lurking just out of sight. Karoline leaned casually against a pillar, pretending to jot notes on her pad. Every so often, she glanced toward Jeff and Lauren, observing their body language and listening to fragments of their conversations. There was something guarded about the way they spoke, almost like they were rehearsing lines rather than having genuine discussions. It piqued her curiosity even more. While Karoline observed, another attendee found herself accidentally thrust into the spotlight. Emily Dawson, a young entrepreneur hoping to make her mark, had been nervously rehearsing her pitch to Jeff when she stumbled into his path. Startled, she dropped her phone, which clattered loudly onto the floor. All eyes turned to her, including Jeff's and Lauren's. "I'm so sorry," Emily stammered, bending down to pick up her phone. Her cheeks flushed red as she tried to compose herself. "I didn't mean to interrupt," Jeff chuckled, waving away her apology. "No harm done," he said smoothly, extending a hand to help her up. "Are you here to learn or to teach?" Emily hesitated before answering. "A little of both, I suppose. I'm working on a project I think might interest you someday." Jeff raised an eyebrow, intrigued but non-committal. "Well, good luck with that," he replied before turning back to Lauren. Lauren gave Emily a quick, polite smile before following Jeff deeper into the crowd. Though the encounter was brief, it left Emily feeling unsettled. Something about the way Jeff carried himself and the faintly uneasy look Lauren had given him stuck in her mind. As she wandered off to collect her thoughts, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this story than met the eye. Back at the edge of the room, Karoline decided it was time to make her move. She approached Lauren during a quieter moment, catching her alone near the bar. "Ms. Sánchez," she began, her tone friendly but probing. "I've heard some fascinating things about your recent projects. You must have a lot on your plate keeping up with everything." Lauren smiled politely, though her guard went up immediately. "It's certainly busy, but rewarding," she replied cautiously. "What exactly have you heard?" Karoline tilted her head, feigning innocence. "Oh, just bits and pieces, but I imagine life with someone like Mr. Bezos keeps things interesting. Surely there are stories worth telling." Lauren stiffened slightly, though she managed to keep her composure. "Stories can be misleading," she said coolly. "It's always better to focus on facts." "Of course," Karoline agreed, her voice sweet but laced with meaning. "Still, I wonder what truths might come to light if someone dug deep enough." With that, Karoline excused herself, leaving Lauren standing there, her mind racing. What did Karoline know? And why had she chosen this moment to drop such a cryptic hint? As the evening wore on, the tension between these key players simmered just beneath the surface. For Jeff, the night was supposed to be about networking and showcasing his achievements. Instead, he found himself distracted, sensing a shift in the air. Lauren, too, seemed distant, her usual confidence wavering under the weight of uncertainty. Unbeknownst to them, Karoline was already several steps ahead. Back at her hotel later that night, she reviewed the information she'd gathered so far. Documents, emails, and anonymous tips pointed to something big, something that could shake the foundations of Jeff's empire. She knew she was playing a dangerous game, but the stakes were too high to back down now. Meanwhile, Emily sat in her own hotel room, replaying her brief interaction with Jeff in her mind. She couldn't explain why, but she felt drawn to uncovering whatever secrets lay hidden behind his polished exterior. Perhaps it was ambition, perhaps curiosity, or maybe it was simply the thrill of chasing something bigger than herself. As the city lights twinkled outside their windows, none of them realized how deeply intertwined their lives were about to become. Each person carried their own motivations, fears, and hopes, setting the stage for a drama that would unfold in ways none of them could predict. The evening had been long, but the day wasn't over yet for Jeff Bezos. After leaving the tech conference early, he returned to his penthouse suite, a modern marvel perched high above Seattle. The city lights twinkled beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a soft glow across the room. But despite the breathtaking view, Jeff couldn't relax. Something about Karoline Leavitt's presence at the event gnawed at him. He sat at a sleek glass table near the window, surrounded by papers, folders, and an open laptop. His brow furrowed as he scrolled through emails, searching for anything that might explain why Karoline seemed so interested in him. Or worse, what she knew. Every click of the mouse felt heavier than the last, each message bringing no answers, but only more questions. Just then, his phone buzzed loudly on the table. It was Daniel Carter, his longtime advisor and one of the few people Jeff trusted completely. Without hesitation, Jeff picked up the call. "Daniel," he said, his voice sharp. "What do you have?" Daniel wasted no time getting to the point. "Jeff, we've got a problem. Karoline Leavitt has obtained some sensitive documents. They're tied to those satellite ventures from years ago, the ones we thought were buried." Jeff froze, his fingers gripping the edge of the table. For a moment there was silence. Then slowly he exhaled. "How bad is it?" he asked, though deep down, he already feared the answer. "It's not good," Daniel admitted. "If she publishes this, it could blow everything wide open. Not just the satellite projects, but other things too. Things we can't afford to let out." Jeff leaned back in his chair, running a hand over his face. He had worked tirelessly to build his empire, always staying several steps ahead of potential threats. Yet here he was, blindsided by someone who shouldn't even be on his radar. "Who leaked this?" he demanded, his tone hardening. "And how did she get her hands on it?" "I don't know yet," Daniel replied. "But whoever it was, they're thorough. We need to act fast before she goes public." Jeff ended the call abruptly, his mind racing. He stared out the window, watching the cars move like tiny dots far below. This wasn't supposed to happen. He had built walls around himself, layers of protection meant to shield him from scrutiny. And now, those walls were crumbling. Meanwhile, Lauren Sánchez lay awake in bed, unable to sleep. Her mind kept replaying the conversation with Karoline earlier that night. Those cryptic words, "truths worth telling," kept echoing in her head. What had Karoline meant, and why had she singled Lauren out? Frustrated, Lauren reached for her phone and dialed Rachel Meyer, her closest friend. Rachel answered groggily after a few rings. "Lauren, do you realize what time it is?" "I know, I'm sorry," Lauren whispered, glancing at the clock. I needed to talk to someone." Rachel sighed but softened her tone. "Okay, what's going on?" Lauren hesitated, unsure where to start. Finally, she blurted out, "Karoline Leavitt cornered me tonight at the conference. She hinted at knowing something big about Jeff. Something dangerous." There was a pause on the other end of the line. Dangerous how? Rachel asked cautiously. I don't know, Lauren admitted. But the way she looked at me, it sent chills down my spine like she knows something I don't. Rachel was quiet for a moment, thinking, Look, Lauren, powerful men like Jeff always have secrets. You know that better than anyone. Maybe it's nothing serious, or maybe... She trailed off, letting the implication hang in the air. Lauren swallowed hard. Maybe I've been living in denial, she finished softly. Maybe I don't really know him at all. You deserve to find out, Rachel said firmly. If there's something shady going on, you can't ignore it. Protect yourself first, Lauren. Always. After hanging up, Lauren stared at the ceiling, feeling torn. She cared deeply for Jeff, but doubt crept into her thoughts like a shadow. Could she trust him? Or had she been blind to the truth all along? The next morning, Emily Dawson woke up early, her mind buzzing with ideas. Last night's encounter with Karoline at the cafe had left her intrigued and slightly nervous. The journalist had been surprisingly candid, sharing bits of information about Jeff's alleged misconduct without revealing too much. When Karoline suggested they work together, Emily had agreed, sensing an opportunity to expose corruption while advancing her own goals. At a small coffee shop near her hotel, Emily met Karoline again. The journalist arrived carrying a thick folder, stuffed with papers. She slid it across the table to Emily, who opened it cautiously. Inside were emails, financial records, and memos detailing questionable decisions made within Jeff's companies. Some of it was technical jargon, but certain phrases stood out. Misuse of funds, illegal contracts, and cover-ups. This is huge, Emily murmured, flipping through the pages. Where did you get all this? Karoline smirked, faintly. Let's just say I have sources who believe the public deserves to know the truth. Now it's up to us to connect the dots. Emily nodded, determination growing inside her. She had always dreamed of making a difference, and this could be her chance. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were stepping into dangerous territory. What happens if we get caught? She asked quietly. We won't, Karoline assured her, though her expression betrayed a flicker of concern. As long as we stay careful, we'll be fine. Over the next few days, Emily threw herself into analyzing the documents. Late nights blurred into early mornings as she pored over spreadsheets and cross-referenced data. Karoline checked in regularly, offering guidance and encouragement. Together, they uncovered startling connections, not just to Jeff, but to other influential figures, including a senator named Gregory Lane. Gregory's involvement added another layer of complexity to the story. According to the evidence, he had accepted bribes in exchange for turning a blind eye to unethical practices within Jeff's ventures. If exposed, it would not only tarnish Jeff's reputation, but also bring down a prominent politician. Back in Nunsandinout, Seattle, Lauren decided to confront Jeff directly. She found him pacing in the living room of their shared penthouse, clearly agitated. When she entered, he glanced up briefly before resuming his restless stride. We need to talk, Lauren said, her voice steady despite the turmoil swirling inside her. Jeff stopped mid-step, his jaw tightening. About what? Karoline Leavitt, Lauren replied. She approached me at the conference. She hinted at knowing something damaging about you. Jeff's eyes narrowed. And you believed her? I don't know what to believe anymore. Lauren shot back. That's why I'm asking you. Is there something I should know? Something you haven't told me? For a moment, Jeff said nothing. Then, with forced calm, he shook his head. You're overthinking this. Karoline is just trying to stir up trouble. Don't let her get into your head. But Lauren wasn't convinced. Why does she seem so confident then? Why does everyone around us suddenly look guilty when her name comes up? Jeff's patience snapped. Because people are always looking for ways to tear successful individuals down. You think I haven't dealt with this before? Trust me, Lauren, there's nothing to worry about. His words stung, but Lauren refused to back down. If that's true, prove it, she challenged. Show me there's nothing to hide. Jeff stared at her, anger simmering beneath the surface. For the first time since they'd met, Lauren saw cracks in his carefully constructed facade. Whatever secrets he carried, they weighed heavily on him, and she feared she might never truly understand the man she loved. As the days passed, tensions continued to rise. Each character moved closer to their breaking point, driven by fear, ambition, or the pursuit of justice. Unbeknownst to them, their actions would soon collide, in ways none of them could anticipate. The charity gala was supposed to be a celebration, a night of elegance and generosity where Seattle's elite came together to support worthy causes. Held in a sprawling ballroom adorned with glittering chandeliers and towering floral arrangements, the event drew a crowd of influential figures from all walks of life. Everyone looked their best, dressed in designer gowns and tailored suits, sipping champagne as they mingled under soft golden light. Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sánchez arrived together, stepping out of a sleek black car onto the red carpet. Cameras flashed as they posed for photos, smiling for the press like the perfect power couple. Inside, they moved through the crowd effortlessly, exchanging pleasantries with donors, politicians, and celebrities alike. But beneath their polished exterior, tension simmered. Neither had forgotten the unease that had been building between them since the tech conference. As dinner concluded, it was time for the evening's main event, a live interview segment featuring notable attendees. The host, a charismatic TV personality named Michael Lawson, took the stage to introduce the first guest. To everyone's surprise, he announced Karoline Leavitt, who walked confidently to the podium, her heels clicking against the marble floor. Karoline adjusted the microphone and began speaking, her voice calm but commanding. She started by thanking the organizers for hosting such an important event before shifting gears. "Tonight," she said, looking directly at the audience, "I want to talk about responsibility, not just personal responsibility, but corporate responsibility. Because when those in positions of power fail to act ethically, we all suffer." Her words hung in the air, drawing murmurs from the crowd. Jeff stiffened in his seat, sensing where this was headed. Lauren glanced at him nervously, then back at Karoline, whose gaze seemed to pierce through the room. "In recent months," Karoline continued, "I've uncovered troubling information about certain individuals and organizations, information that raises serious questions about how resources intended for humanitarian efforts have been misused." She paused dramatically, letting her statement sink in. Then, without naming names, she added, "One particular figure comes to mind, a leader whose ambition knows no bounds, yet whose actions betray a lack of accountability." The room fell silent. Reporters leaned forward, pens poised, while others exchanged confused glances. Jeff's face turned red, his fists clenched tightly under the table. He knew exactly who Karoline was referring to, and he couldn't believe she dared to accuse him publicly. Lauren felt her heart pounding. She wanted to disappear to escape the weight of what was happening. Was this the truth bomb Karoline had hinted at during their earlier encounter? If so, Lauren realized she wasn't ready for it. Finally, Jeff stood up abruptly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. Without saying a word, he stormed out of the ballroom, leaving behind a trail of whispers and speculation. Lauren hesitated, unsure whether to follow him or stay put. In the end, she remained seated, too overwhelmed to move. Karoline wrapped up, her speech with a call to action, urging the audience to demand transparency and integrity from those in power. When she finished, applause erupted, though not everyone joined in. Some attendees sat silently, clearly uncomfortable with the direction the evening had taken. Outside the venue, Jeff paced angrily near his car, fuming over what had just happened. How dare Karoline humiliate him like that, and in front of so many people? His mind raced with thoughts of retaliation. He pulled out his phone and dialed Daniel Carter, his trusted advisor. "Daniel," Jeff snapped as soon as the call connected. "We need to shut her down, now." "I'm already on it," Daniel replied. "But you should know it's going to get messy. She's got evidence, Jeff, real proof." Jeff cursed under his breath. "What kind of evidence?" "Financial records, emails, internal memos," Daniel explained. "Enough to cause serious damage if she releases it." Jeff slammed his fist against the car door. Then stop her. Use whatever means necessary. Daniel hesitated. You're asking me to play dirty, are you sure about this? Yes, Jeff growled. Do whatever it takes. Meanwhile, inside the ballroom, Lauren found herself cornered by curious onlookers eager to hear her thoughts on Karoline's accusations. She offered vague responses, trying to deflect attention, but her discomfort was obvious. Sensing her distress, Rachel Meyer appeared at her side, offering support. You okay? Rachel whispered as they stepped away from the crowd. Lauren shook her head. No, I'm not okay. This whole thing, it's spiraling out of control. Rachel placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Whatever happens, remember your worth. Don't let anyone, including Jeff, drag you into their mess. Lauren nodded, though doubt still clouded her mind. What if Rachel was right? What if staying with Jeff meant sacrificing her own values? Elsewhere, Emily Dawson celebrated a small victory. After days of analyzing documents provided by Karoline, she had uncovered a critical link tying Jeff's ventures to illegal activities overseas. It was the smoking gun they needed to make their case undeniable. Excited, she texted Karoline. We did it. Found the connection. Karoline responded immediately. Good work. Time to take this public. Over the next few hours, news outlets picked up snippets of Karoline's speech, fueling widespread discussion online. Social media exploded with hashtags like Expose the Truth and Corporate Accountability. Supporters praised Karoline for her bravery, while critics accused her of sensationalism. The scandal dominated headlines, overshadowing everything else. Back at the penthouse, Jeff poured himself a drink, trying to steady his nerves. His empire, the one he had built from scratch, was under siege, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. For the first time in years, he felt powerless. Lauren returned home late that night, finding Jeff slumped in a chair, staring blankly at the wall. She hesitated in the doorway, unsure whether to approach him. Finally, she spoke softly. Jeff, we need to talk. He looked up, his eyes bloodshot and weary. About what? You think I don't already know how bad this is? It's not just about the scandal, Lauren said carefully. It's about trust, about honesty. I feel like I don't even know you anymore. Jeff sighed heavily. Lauren, please, don't turn against me now, not when I need you most. But Lauren couldn't ignore the doubts gnawing at her. Maybe I can't stand by and watch this happen, she admitted. Maybe I have to choose what's right over what's easy. Her words hit Jeff like a punch to the gut. He opened his mouth to argue, but stopped himself, realizing it wouldn't change anything. The cracks in their relationship were widening, and no amount of charm or persuasion could fix them. As dawn broke over Seattle, each character grappled with the fallout of Karoline's explosive revelation. Jeff faced the possibility of losing everything he had worked for. Lauren wrestled with her loyalty and conscience. Emily and Karoline prepared to release their findings, knowing it would ignite a firestorm. And the world watched, waiting to see how the drama would unfold. Though none of them realized it yet, the events of that night would alter the course of their lives forever. The days following Karoline's explosive speech at the charity gala were chaotic. The scandal dominated headlines worldwide, turning Jeff Bezos' empire and his personal life into a spectacle. Reporters camped outside his penthouse, eager to capture any reaction or statement he might give. Social media buzzed with debates about corporate ethics, accountability, and whether Jeff was guilty of the accusations leveled against him. Karoline and Emily worked tirelessly in a small rented office overlooking the Seattle skyline. The space was cluttered with laptops, stacks of papers, and coffee cups that had long gone cold. They spent hours piecing together evidence, cross-referencing documents, and preparing their findings for public release. Each discovery added another layer to the story, revealing not just isolated incidents but a pattern of unethical behavior spanning years. One afternoon, as sunlight streamed through the windows, Emily leaned back in her chair, rubbing her temples. This is bigger than I thought, she admitted, glancing at Karoline. It's not just Jeff, it's everyone connected to him. Karoline nodded, her expression grim. That's why we have to be careful. If we expose this correctly, it could bring down an entire network of corruption. Emily hesitated before asking, "Do you ever worry about what might happen to us? I mean, we're going up against some powerful people." For the first time, Karoline allowed herself a moment of vulnerability. "Of course I worry," she admitted. "But if we don't do this, who will? Someone has to stand up for what's right, even if it's risky." Inspired by Karoline's determination, Emily pushed aside her fears and returned to work. Together, they uncovered damning evidence linking Jeff's ventures to illegal activities overseas, including bribery schemes involving Senator Gregory Lane. It became clear that the senator had accepted payments in exchange for turning a blind eye to unethical practices within Jeff's companies. With each new revelation, the stakes grew higher. Meanwhile, Lauren Sánchez found herself caught in the middle of the storm. Since confronting Jeff after the gala, their relationship had grown increasingly strained. Lauren spent most of her time alone, trying to process everything she had learned. She confided in Rachel Meyer, who encouraged her to prioritize her own well-being. "You can't keep living like this," Rachel said during one of their phone calls. "If staying with Jeff means losing yourself, then it's not worth it." Lauren sighed, staring out the window of her apartment. "I know you're right, but leaving isn't easy. What happens next?" "Where do I go from here?" Rachel offered gentle advice. "Start by focusing on your passions. Remember how much you love documentary filmmaking? Maybe now's the time to dive back into that." The idea resonated with Lauren. Filmmaking had always been her true passion, even before she met Jeff. Over the past few years, she had set it aside to support his career. But now, faced with the possibility of starting over, she realized how much she missed telling stories that mattered. With renewed resolve, Lauren began sketching out ideas for a new project, a documentary exploring themes of trust, power, and redemption. She envisioned interviews with whistleblowers, activists, and everyday people affected by corporate greed. It would be her way of contributing to the conversation sparked by Karoline's exposé. Jeff, on the other hand, was unraveling. Once untouchable, he now found himself besieged on all sides. Investors pulled out of his projects, employees expressed concerns about job security, and even family members distanced themselves, fearing association with the scandal. His legal team, led by Daniel Carter, scrambled to contain the damage, filing lawsuits and issuing statements denying wrongdoing. But no amount of spin could stop the tide of public opinion. Protesters gathered outside Amazon headquarters, holding signs that read, "Justice over greed," and "Expose corporate corruption." Employees spoke out anonymously, sharing stories of toxic workplace culture and questionable management decisions. The cracks in Jeff's carefully constructed image were widening, threatening to shatter it completely. In an attempt to regain control, Jeff called an emergency meeting with his inner circle. Gathered around a conference table, they strategized ways to counterattack. Some suggested discrediting Karoline by questioning her motives. Others proposed leaking false information to distract from the real issues. Jeff listened silently, weighing his options. "We need to hit back hard," Daniel urged. "Show the world that she's lying, or at least exaggerating." Jeff shook his head. "No. That'll only make things worse. We need to focus on damage, control, find a way to shift the narrative." As the meeting dragged on, Jeff couldn't shake the feeling that he was fighting a losing battle. For decades, he had prided himself on being unshakable, unstoppable. Yet here he was, vulnerable and exposed, watching everything he had built crumble around him. Back in their office, Karoline and Emily finalized their report. It was a comprehensive exposé detailing every aspect of the scandal, from financial mismanagement to political corruption. They planned to publish it online, ensuring it reached as wide an audience as possible. "This is it," Karoline said, reviewing the document one last time. "Once this goes live, there's no turning back." Emily nodded, her heart racing. "Are you ready?" "As ready as I'll ever be," Karoline replied with a determined smile. When the expose went live, it sent shockwaves through the world. Within hours, millions of people had read it, sharing it across social media platforms. Journalists picked apart its contents, verifying facts and digging deeper into the allegations. Lawmakers called for investigations, and calls for accountability grew louder. Senator Gregory Lane, implicated in the scandal, issued a hasty resignation claiming he had been misled. His departure further fueled public outrage, as it highlighted the extent of the corruption embedded in systems meant to protect citizens. Jeff watched the fallout unfold from his penthouse, feeling powerless to stop it. For the first time, he questioned whether rebuilding his reputation was even possible. He considered stepping away from the spotlight entirely, retreating to focus on philanthropy, an effort to salvage whatever scraps of goodwill remained. Lauren, meanwhile, made her decision. After weeks of soul-searching, she packed her bags and moved out of the penthouse. Leaving behind the luxurious lifestyle she had grown accustomed to wasn't easy, but she knew it was the right choice. She left a note for Jeff, thanking him for the memories but explaining that she needed to forge her own path. As she settled into a modest apartment downtown, Lauren felt a sense of freedom she hadn't experienced in years. She threw herself into her documentary project, conducting interviews and gathering footage. Her journey toward self-discovery had begun, and she was determined to see it through. Emily celebrated her own breakthrough when a venture capitalist impressed by her role in exposing the scandal offered funding for her startup. It was validation of her hard work and courage, proof that standing up for justice could lead to unexpected opportunities. Karoline, though exhausted, felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had risked everything to shine a light on the truth and succeeded. Though challenges lay ahead, she knew she had made a difference. Each character emerged from the chaos changed, carrying lessons learned and scars earned. The scandal had exposed not just wrongdoing but also resilience, bravery, and the enduring pursuit of truth. And while the road ahead remained uncertain, one thing was clear: none of them would ever be the same again. Months had passed since the scandal broke, and the world was still reeling from its impact. What began as whispers of misconduct had grown into a global conversation about accountability, ethics, and power. For those directly involved, life had changed in ways they never imagined. Each person carried their own burdens and hopes as they navigated the aftermath. Lauren Sánchez found solace in routine. After leaving Jeff's penthouse, she rented a small apartment in a quieter part of Seattle. It wasn't luxurious, but it felt like home. Every morning, she woke up early to take long walks in a nearby park, camera in hand. Filmmaking had become her anchor, giving her a sense of purpose amid the chaos. She spent hours editing footage for her documentary, weaving together interviews with whistleblowers, activists, and ordinary people affected by corporate greed. Her goal was simple: to tell stories that mattered, shining a light on truths often ignored. As she worked, Lauren reflected on how much she had grown over the past few months. She no longer felt defined by her relationship with Jeff. Instead, she embraced her identity as a storyteller and advocate for change. One crisp morning, as Lauren sat on a park bench reviewing clips, she noticed someone familiar walking briskly along the path. It was Emily Dawson, the young entrepreneur, who had played a key role in exposing the scandal. Emily looked determined, clutching a folder filled with papers. Lauren called out to her, waving warmly. Emily approached, slightly surprised but pleased to see Lauren. "Hey, how are you doing?" she asked, sitting down beside her. "I'm good," Lauren replied with a smile. "Just working on my documentary. What about you? Still busy changing the world?" Emily laughed softly. "Trying to. My startup is finally getting off the ground thanks to some investors impressed by the expose. But honestly, I couldn't have done any of it without Karoline's guidance." Lauren nodded knowingly. "She's incredible. Have you talked to her lately?" "Yeah, we met up last week," Emily said. "She's working on another big story already. Honestly, I don't know how she does it. She's fearless." The two women chatted for a while, sharing updates and discussing their respective projects. Both felt a sense of camaraderie, knowing they were part of something larger than themselves. They weren't just rebuilding their lives. They were contributing to a movement aimed at creating a better future. Meanwhile, Karoline Leavitt continued her crusade for justice. Though the scandal involving Jeff Bezos had dominated headlines for months, she refused to rest on her laurels. There were always more stories to uncover, more wrongs to right. Sitting under a tree in the same park where Lauren and Emily had met, Karoline typed furiously on her laptop, drafting an article about government oversight failures linked to corporate corruption. Her work hadn't come without consequences. Powerful entities sought to silence her, filing lawsuits and spreading misinformation to discredit her efforts. Yet Karoline remained undeterred. She knew the risks when she chose this path and accepted them willingly. To her, the pursuit of truth was worth every challenge. As Karoline paused to sip her coffee, she glanced around the park. She spotted Lauren and Emily talking animatedly on the bench and smiled faintly. These women embodied resilience and courage, the kind of spirit needed to drive meaningful change. Karoline felt proud to have played a role in their journeys. Back in his secluded retreat outside Seattle, Jeff Bezos grappled with humility, a concept foreign to him for most of his life. Once accustomed to commanding attention and admiration, he now avoided public appearances altogether. His empire, though still vast, bore the scars of the scandal. Investors remained wary, employees questioned leadership decisions, and his family struggled to reconcile with the revelations. Jeff tried to focus on philanthropy, channeling funds into humanitarian causes and environmental initiatives. He hoped these efforts would restore faith in his character, or at least soften the blow of his tarnished reputation. Some praised his attempts at redemption, while others dismissed them as too little, too late. At night, alone in his study, Jeff often reflected on what had gone wrong. Had he become so consumed with success that he lost sight of morality? Was there a way to rebuild trust, not just with the public but with himself? The questions haunted him, reminders of the price of unchecked ambition. Daniel Carter, Jeff's trusted advisor, visited occasionally to offer counsel. During one such visit, Daniel broached a difficult topic. "You need to consider stepping away completely," he suggested gently. "Let someone else lead for a while. It might be the only way to save what's left." Jeff sighed heavily. "I built this company from nothing. Walking away felt impossible." "But necessary," Daniel countered. "Sometimes letting go is the hardest but smartest thing you can do." Though reluctant, Jeff acknowledged the wisdom in Daniel's words. Perhaps it was time to step back, to let others guide the ship he had steered for so long. Whether this decision stemmed from genuine remorse or strategic calculation, even Jeff couldn't say for sure. As the weeks turned into months, the ripple effects of the scandal continued to spread. Lawmakers introduced stricter regulations targeting corporate misconduct, inspired by public demand for transparency. Activists organized rallies, urging citizens to hold leaders accountable. And journalists like Karoline kept pushing boundaries, ensuring no wrongdoing went unnoticed. For Lauren, completing her documentary marked a turning point. Titled Truth and Power, the film premiered at a local festival, earning standing ovations and critical acclaim. Audiences praised its raw honesty and emotional depth, calling it a testament to resilience and the human spirit. Lauren dedicated the project to anyone brave enough to seek justice, knowing firsthand how daunting that journey could be. Emily's startup thrived, gaining recognition for its innovative approach to sustainable technology. Investors hailed her as a visionary, crediting her tenacity and integrity for overcoming obstacles. She credited Karoline and the scandal investigation for teaching her the value of standing up for what's right, even when it's hard. And Karoline? She kept writing, investigating, and inspiring others to join the fight against corruption. Though challenges loomed large, she faced them head-on, driven by an unshakable belief in the power of truth. Each character emerged from the storm forever changed. They had confronted fear, betrayal, and uncertainty, but also discovered strength, purpose, and hope. Together, they proved that even in the darkest times, light could prevail. Their stories served as reminders that accountability matters, Courage inspires and truth endures. Though scars remained, they became symbols of survival, testaments to the resilience required to rise above adversity. And as they moved forward, each step brought them closer to a brighter, more just future. The months following the scandal brought both closure and renewal for those touched by its far-reaching impact. Life had moved forward, but the lessons learned lingered, shaping each person's journey in profound ways. As the dust settled, they found themselves reflecting on what truly mattered, and how to rebuild not just their lives but also their values. Lauren Sánchez stood on the rooftop of a small community center, filming the final scenes for her documentary, Truth and Power. The setting sun bathed the city in warm golden light, casting long shadows across the bustling streets below. Her camera captured stories of resilience, activists fighting for justice, whistleblowers risking everything to expose wrongdoing, and ordinary people striving to make a difference. Each frame was infused with hope, a testament to humanity's capacity to rise above adversity. For Lauren, completing this project felt like closing a chapter in her life. It wasn't just about documenting the fallout from Jeff's scandal. It was about finding her voice again. Through filmmaking, she rediscovered her passion and purpose. She realized that storytelling could be a powerful tool for change, one that gave strength to those who felt powerless. As she packed up her equipment, Emily Dawson arrived, carrying a bouquet of flowers. "I heard today was your last day of filming," Emily said with a grin. "I wanted to celebrate." Lauren laughed, accepting the gift. "You didn't have to do this, but thank you. It means a lot." Emily shrugged modestly. "You've inspired so many people, including me. Your documentary is going to change minds." The two women sat together, watching the skyline fade into twilight. They talked about their respective journeys, marveling at how much had changed since the scandal erupted. Lauren confessed that leaving Jeff hadn't been easy, but it allowed her to grow in ways she never expected. "Sometimes letting go is the hardest thing," she admitted, "but it can also set you free." Emily nodded, understanding all too well. Her own path, from uncovering evidence against Jeff to launching her startup, had taught her the importance of courage and integrity. With funding secured and her team growing, she finally felt confident in her ability to create meaningful change through innovation. "I used to think success meant being recognized or making money," Emily reflected. "Now I see it differently. Success is about using your skills to help others and staying true to yourself." Their conversation turned to Karoline Leavitt, whose relentless pursuit of justice had sparked the entire movement. Lauren smiled fondly. "She's incredible, isn't she? Without her, none of this would have happened." Karoline, meanwhile, was hard at work in her apartment-turned-office, surrounded by stacks of research materials and half-empty coffee cups. Though exhausted, she felt invigorated by her latest investigation, a deep dive into systemic corruption within government agencies. Every story she uncovered reinforced her belief that transparency and accountability were essential for progress. Her phone buzzed with a text from Lauren. "Just finished filming my documentary. Thanks for inspiring us all." Karoline smiled, touched by the message. Despite the challenges she faced daily, threats, criticism, and attempts to silence her, moments like these reminded her why she chose this demanding path. Later that evening, Karoline stepped onto her balcony, gazing at the stars. She thought about the countless individuals who had reached out to thank her for exposing the truth. Their gratitude fueled her determination to keep going, even when the road ahead seemed daunting. "One step at a time," she whispered to herself, knowing that every word she wrote brought the world closer to justice. Back in his retreat outside Seattle, Jeff Bezos tried to make sense of his new reality. He no longer held the same level of control over his empire, having handed leadership responsibilities to trusted executives. Some days he struggled with feelings of regret and loss. Other days he focused on philanthropy, pouring resources into initiatives aimed at addressing climate change and poverty. Jeff knew he couldn't undo the damage caused by his past actions or regain the trust he had lost. But he hoped his efforts toward redemption might count for something. During quiet moments, he read letters from employees and members of the public, some expressing anger, others offering cautious optimism. Each response reminded him of the weight of power and the responsibility that came with it. Daniel Carter visited regularly, offering guidance and support. "Redemption isn't easy," Daniel told him one afternoon, "but it's possible if you're willing to listen, learn, and act." Jeff nodded, acknowledging the wisdom in Daniel's words. He began volunteering at local charities, meeting people directly affected by inequality and injustice. These interactions humbled him, forcing him to confront the consequences of unchecked ambition. Slowly, he started to envision a future where his legacy might reflect more than wealth. It could embody compassion and accountability. As the year drew to a close, the ripple effects of the scandal continued to shape society. Lawmakers passed landmark legislation targeting corporate misconduct, inspired by public demand for transparency. Activists organized nationwide campaigns, urging citizens to hold leaders accountable, and journalists like Karoline kept pushing boundaries, ensuring no wrongdoing went unnoticed. Lauren's documentary premiered at a prestigious film festival, earning widespread acclaim. Critics praised its emotional depth and unflinching honesty, calling it a beacon of hope in turbulent times. Audiences connected deeply with its message, sparking conversations about ethics, trust, and resilience. For Lauren, the success of truth and power validated her decision to follow her heart and proved that vulnerability could inspire strength. Emily's startup gained traction, earning recognition for its commitment to sustainability and social impact. Investors hailed her as a visionary, crediting her tenacity and integrity for overcoming obstacles. She credited Karoline and the scandal investigation for teaching her the value of standing up for what's right, even when it's hard. And Karoline. She kept writing, investigating, and inspiring others to join the fight against corruption. Though challenges loomed large, she faced them head-on, driven by an unshakable belief in the power of truth. Each character emerged from the storm, forever changed. They had confronted fear, betrayal, and uncertainty, but also discovered strength, purpose, and hope. Together, they proved that even in the darkest times, light could prevail. Their stories served as reminders that accountability matters, courage inspires, and truth endures. Though scars remained, they became symbols of survival, testaments to the resilience required to rise above adversity. And as they moved forward, each step brought them closer to a brighter, more just future.